all over the large warehouse. Mechanics and engineers with black-stained fingers worked at converting engines. The building had been purchased by the feds a few months ago when they instituted the draft. Instead of drafting soldiers, the government had conscripted all of those with experience as mechanics. Later, they'd added others to the conscription list: electricians, scientists, and engineers. Many of them were allowed to live at home and work in the local conversion plants, but others had been sent across the country to serve where they were needed. Pushing down the kickstand on her bike, she reached into her bag for her notepad and looked around for someone in charge. She saw Ned Emery, from her neighborhood, standing nearby with a clipboard, instructing a group of mechanics with a disassembled engine laid out in front of them. She headed toward him. "Excuse me," she yelled over the noise. "Mr. Emery?" He turned. "Yeah?" She could see that he didn't recognize her, even though his son Zach had been close friends with her brother for years. "Denny Branning, Jeff's sister?" Recognition dawned in his eyes. She reached out to shake hands with him, but he showed her his greasy hands. "Better not shake. What brings you here?" "I'm writing an article about your work here. Do you have time for an interview?" As if he hadn't heard her, he turned back to the men, barked out some orders that she couldn't hear, and started walking away. Glancing back over his shoulder, he said, "I heard the newspaper is back up and running. They hired you, did they?" She caught up to him and tried to match his steps. "That's right, the Crockett Times. They liked what I'd been doing on the message boards around town. This'll be the cover story for next week's issue." He didn't seem impressed, so she pulled out her big guns. "You guys are like rock stars. Everybody wants to know what you're up to." Pride pulled at the corners of his mouth, and she knew she'd struck a chord. "Sure, I can give you a few minutes. What do you want to know?" He started up a staircase, and she blew out her frustration as she followed him. "Is there some place we can sit down?" "I don't have time to sit down." He reached the top of the stairs and headed across the concrete floor to an area where a dozen mopeds sat in various stages of completion. "Hey, Stark, I need at least 4 of these done by the end of the day. Get Bennett over here to help you." Denny's gaze swept over the bikes. "Wow, how can I get one of those?" "You can't. They're not for the private sector." He was walking again, but she hung back, unable to tear herself away from the coveted mopeds. She stepped toward one and touched the seat. He turned back and gave her an impatient look. "Do you want to do the interview or not?" She shook off her longing and forced herself to focus. "Of course." He led her past a table filled with generators, and again her longing kicked in. "Do those work?" "They do after we harden them against the pulses." Her heart quickened. If they were making hardened generators here, it wouldn't be long until they actually had electricity. Could there really be light bulbs at the end of the tunnel? "When will those be available for the public?" she asked, catching up to him again. "Our illustrious supernova will burn out before we can finish supplying the hospitals. They're priority number 1 for the generators right now. Without robotics, assembly lines, electricity for that matter, we have to do everything by hand, one at a time. And even if we could produce enough for the public, there's one missing ingredient." "Gasoline," she said. "You got it." He reached a series of offices with glass walls, overlooking the work on the floor below them. "We can't get enough gas without operating tanker trucks, and once we get it here, we don't have electricity to work the pumps." She was well aware of the chain of problems. "But aren't you guys all about creating workarounds?" "Right now, we're just trying to help critical services operate. Like I said, the star will likely burn out before we get caught up with that. Then we'll shift our objectives from sustaining to rebuilding." He headed into one of the offices, dropped his clipboard on his desk, and motioned for her to take a seat. As Denny sat down, something outside the glass caught Ned's eye, and Denny turned to follow his gaze. Someone was running up the stairs. Ned frowned as his son Gary came running toward his door. "Dad, Zach's been shot." "What?" Denny caught her breath and got to her feet. "We were hunting at the Jenkins place. I heard some gunshots, and when I found him—" "Is he dead?" Ned blurted out. "I don't think so. I got help, and somebody went to get an ambulance. They're taking him to University Hospital."